So today we're diving deep into a framework for financial success. And honestly, it runs completely counter to, well, pretty much everything most of us were taught growing up.
Right.
And look, we're not here to debate, the value of college itself. That's a whole other discussion.
Mm-hmm.
What we are doing is looking closely at this really influential idea that success, real lifetime success, isn't guaranteed by your grades or your degree. It might actually come from ignoring a lot of what school taught you about money.
Exactly. That conventional path, study hard, get that safe job, climb the ladder.
Yeah, the whole package.
What if that's just fundamentally broken now?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It really is. And that's our mission in this deep dive. We're unpacking this argument, Kiyosaki's argument, that traditional schooling, it focuses on academic skills, professional skills.
Here are the things you need for a job.
Precisely. But it actively fails, or maybe just ignores, teaching the financial skills you actually need to build wealth in the real world. For you listening, this is likely a pretty radical shift in thinking.
It definitely was for me at first.
And it starts with this problem, this gap in financial education, and what he calls the rat race that results from it.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that. The argument kicks off with a kind of protest, doesn't it? You look around at, hugely wealthy people today. Think Michael Jordan, Madonna, even Bill Gates famously dropped out of Harvard. Their path wasn't necessarily about getting top grades, right?
Yeah, the common thread isn't that they aced every exam.
Yeah.
Their wealth wasn't built finding that quote-unquote high-paying job with great benefits. That wasn't the goal.
So the traditional advice leads somewhere else.
And that's where it becomes a trap, according to this view. Following that old path often means you just work harder and harder.
Right, chasing the next raise.
Only to end up paying more in taxes and often sinking deeper into debt. I mean, we see it today. College grads sometimes earning less, adjusted for inflation, than earlier generations.
And job security. Forget about it.
It's almost non-existent. We hear terms like downsizing, right-sizing, which basically means the old promise of loyalty for security, that's gone. The deal's off the table.
Okay, so if that's the broken advice, what's the life loop it creates? You mentioned the rat race. He uses that board game, Cash Flow, to illustrate it, right? That little inner track.
That's the one. The rat race, as he defines it, it's the financial life script for the average, educated, hardworking person. They do everything they were told.
Go to school, get the good job, doctor, lawyer, maybe a stable government position.
Exactly. They start making decent money. Then the credit card offers roll in. Shopping starts. Maybe they buy a house, a car, have kids.
And suddenly the need for cash is just huge, enormous.
Enormous. So what do? They work harder. Maybe they get promotions, raises. But guess what?
Taxes go up.
Instantly. Your tax bracket jumps. Property taxes on the house go up. Lifestyle costs inflate to meet the new income.
It's like treading water, but faster.
Precisely. And the trap snaps shut. Now they're essentially working for three entities, not themselves.
Okay, who are they?
First, the owners of the company they work for. Second, the government taking a bigger slice with every raise. And third, the bank paying off the mortgage, the car loans, the credit cards.
Wow. And the really cruel part.
The cruel twist is that they often teach their own kids the exact same advice that trapped them. Keep the wheel spinning for the next generation.
That's why getting a big raise can feel almost disappointing sometimes. You see the numbers, but then you realize taxes and other deductions just ate half of it. It's crushing.
That is the rat race. It's a life driven primarily by two emotions, fear and desire.
Fear and desire. How so?
Fear of not having enough money, fear of being broke, and desire for, all the things money can buy. This keeps people reacting, paying bills, working harder, instead of proactively thinking and building actual financial independence.
Okay, that sets the stage. And this leads us to the real core of his framework, right? This contrast between the two dads, the poor dad and the rich dad.
Yes, and they represent two fundamentally opposing philosophies about money and life. It's really stark when you lay them out.
Tell us about the poor dad first, the educated one.
Right. Highly educated, government job, PhD even. His advice was standard. Work for a good, secure company. He valued being seen as smart and expert, believed in the system, entitlements, pensions.
And his relationship with money?
Always seemed to struggle, despite a good salary. Lived with a sense of scarcity. His habitual phrase was, I can't afford it. End of story.
Okay, now contrast that with the rich dad, the entrepreneur.
Totally different mindset. His advice, own the corporation, don't just work for it. He focused on learning how to hire smart people, not necessarily being the smartest one himself.
Interesting distinction.
Huge. He believed in total financial self-reliance, no safety nets. And instead of, I can't afford it, his question was always proactive. Okay, how can I afford it? It shifts your brain into problem-solving mode.
That difference in phrasing is powerful.
It really is. And it highlights Kiyosaki's definition of poor versus broke. He makes this distinction. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal.
Meaning, poverty isn't just about lack of cash.
Exactly. In this framework, being poor isn't about your bank balance today. It's a mindset. It's your thoughts and your actions. The poor dad had a high salary, but his thinking and his habits' reliance on a job, fear of risk, kept him, in this sense, poor.
Wow. Okay, so that focus on mindset, that leads into the first big lesson Rich Dad taught him, right? The one learned working for like 10 cents an hour and then for free.
That's the one, a foundational lesson. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Simple, but profound.
And getting back to those emotions, fear and desire, how do they keep people working for money?
Well, it's the cycle, right? Fear of not paying bills drives you to get up and go to work. That paycheck comes in, and then desire kicks in, wanting a nicer car, a vacation, whatever.
Yeah.
So you spend it. Bills come again, fear returns.
Back on the hamster wheel.
Exactly. Kiyosaki's point isn't to eliminate fear and desire. They're powerful motivators. The goal is to recognize them and use them consciously. Channel that fear into thinking, how can I generate income differently? Use that desire to fuel learning and asset building, not just consumption. Don't let the emotions run you.
Makes sense. Okay, this feels like a good transition to what he calls rule number 1. The single most important rule Rich Dad said you needed to know.
The absolute cornerstone.
Yeah.
And probably the most famous, maybe most argued about concept from the book.
Which is?
Know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. Simple as that.
Okay, but his definitions are unique, right? They aren't standard accounting definitions.
Not at all. They're deliberately simplified to focus purely on cash flow, to change behavior. An asset, in his terms, is simply something that puts money in your pocket, period.
It's money in your pocket.
And a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. Direction of cash flow is the only criterion.
So it ignores things like equity, potential appreciation, what accountants would put on a balance sheet. It's purely about cash coming in or going out right now.
Exactly right. It's a radical simplification, maybe even an oversimplification for accountants, but it's designed to make you ask one question about everything you own or buy. Does this feed me or do I feed it?
Okay, so how does that play out in terms of financial patterns?
Well, the difference becomes really clear. The wealthy pattern, using these definitions, shows income flowing from assets, things like dividend stocks, rental properties, intellectual property, businesses they own but don't manage day to day.
Okay, so assets generate income.
Right. And that income is greater than their expenses. And crucially, what do they do with the excess income?
They buy more assets.
Bingo. They reinvest it straight back into the asset column. More assets generate more income, which buys more assets. It's an upward spiral.
Yeah.
The rich literally get richer because their assets are buying more assets for them.
Okay, and the middle class pattern.
It's the inverse, really.
Yeah.
Their primary income source is their job.
Yeah.
That income comes in.
And goes straight back out.
Pretty much. It flows out to cover increasing expenses. Taxes are usually the biggest. Then housing, food, clothes, transport. And also, crucially, it flows out to service liabilities.
What kind of liabilities in this definition?
Things like the mortgage on their home, car loans, student loans, credit card debt. These things consistently take money out of their pocket month after month.
This brings up the big point of confusion, doesn't it? Why the middle class often buys liabilities thinking they're assets. The house example is classic.
It's the perfect example. Emotionally, your home is huge. Its security, its roots. Maybe long-term, you hope it appreciates.
Right. Everyone tells you it's your biggest asset.
But if you apply Kiyosaki's cash flow definition strictly, does your primary residence put money in your pocket each month? Usually, no. You pay the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities. Money flows out.
So by his definition, for most people, their house is a liability, not an asset.
Correct. Now, if you rented out rooms or had a rental property, that could be an asset if the rent collected exceeds all the expenses. But your own residence, typically a liability in cash flow terms.
That's a tough one for people to swallow, I think.
It absolutely is, because it clashes with conventional wisdom and emotional attachment. But the framework demands that stark cash flow focus.
Okay, so if the goal is to acquire these income-producing assets, you need a different skill set than, say, what got you through your degree.
Definitely. Passing exams and managing assets require very different knowledge. This is where he introduces the idea of financial IQ.
Financial IQ, is that just about being smart with money?
It's broader than that. He describes it as a synergy, a combination of 4 key areas of expertise.
Okay, what are they?
First is accounting, but he really means financial literacy, the ability to actually read and understand numbers, financial statements. Not necessarily become an accountant, but understand the language of money.
Got it. What's second?
Second is investing. The science of making money generate more money. Understanding different investment vehicles and strategies.
Third.
Understanding markets. This is about supply and demand, what drives prices up or down. Recognizing opportunities, understanding the role of emotion in market movements.
Okay, accounting, investing, markets. What's the last one?
And fourth is law. Specifically, understanding how to use legal structures like corporations or trusts to your advantage. Things like tax benefits and asset protection.
So financial IQ is this blend of accounting literacy, investing skill, market sense, and legal savvy.
That's the idea. You need competence across all 4 to really succeed in building significant assets.
Right. And having the intelligence isn't enough. You need the habits too. You mentioned pay yourself first earlier. Let's dig into that.
Yes, this is a habit Kiyosaki emphasizes massively. He means it literally. When money comes in, the very first bill you pay is to yourself specifically, into your asset column, before you pay the government taxes, before you pay your creditors.
Wait, even if you're short on cash, that sounds risky. What if you can't pay your other bills?
That's precisely the point. He argues that this pressure is not just good, it's necessary.
Why? That sounds incredibly stressful.
Because, the argument goes, if you pay yourself last, which is what most people do, pay all the bills, then save or invest what's left, if anything. There's no pressure. You're comfortable. But if you pay yourself first, and then you don't have enough left for the tax man or the credit card company, that creates intense pressure. And that pressure, he believes, forces you to get creative. It compels you to find other streams of income, to make deals, to think. It exercises your mental money muscles, making you financially stronger and more resourceful. Paying yourself last keeps you weak.
So the pressure is actually a tool for growth. That's counterintuitive, but I see the logic. Still, acting on this takes courage. What stops people?
Well, 2 big obstacles he identifies. The first one is huge.
Yeah.
The fear of losing money.
Yeah, nobody likes losing money.
Of course not. But he draws a distinction. For people who ultimately win financially, failure and losses are learning opportunities, data points. They inspire you to adjust, to try a smarter approach next time. For losers, though, losing confirms their fears, confirms their feelings of inadequacy. It defeats them.
So they play it safe.
Exactly. They might buy only safe investments like, say, very conservative mutual funds or bonds, which is fine, but it's often a strategy of playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Building significant assets usually requires taking calculated risks, and that takes guts.
Okay, fear of losing is one. What's the second obstacle?
The second one is maybe even more insidious, laziness. But not just sitting on the couch laziness. It's laziness disguised as busyness.
What do you mean?
It's the person who works 60 hours a week, comes home exhausted, watches TV, maybe plays golf on the weekend. They are constantly busy.
Sounds like a lot of people.
It is. But often this busyness is a sophisticated form of avoidance. It's a way to avoid confronting the really important, maybe uncomfortable financial realities. Avoid looking at the numbers. Avoid learning about investing. Avoid having tough conversations about money.
They're too busy being busy to fix the underlying problem.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They're avoiding the truth about their own cash flow. And the cure for this specific kind of busy laziness, according to Rich Dad, a little bit of controlled greed.
Greed. That sounds negative.
Well, maybe desire is a better word. It's about consciously asking, what's in it for me? What's the payoff if I do tackle these financial issues? What great things could happen? That desire can generate the motivation needed to overcome the inertia of busyness and start making changes.
Okay, so fight laziness with a clear vision of the reward. Makes sense. So wrapping this all up, what's the main message for someone listening to this?
I think the core takeaway is about fundamentally shifting your focus. It's a 180-degree turn.
From what to what?
From focusing primarily on working for money, getting a job, earning a salary, to focusing relentlessly on building your asset column so that eventually your money works for you.
And that might mean making different career choices too.
Absolutely. It might mean choosing a job or even taking a second job. Not for the immediate paycheck, but for the skills you'll learn, skills that will help you build assets later.
Like sales, maybe? Or marketing, public speaking.
Exactly. Skills that directly translate into understanding markets, generating income, or building a business. Work to learn, not just to earn.
So the old rules, good grades, safe job, they're obsolete in this view. Financial literacy isn't optional, it's critical. And the main game is acquiring those income-producing assets.
That's the essence of it. And remember, we talked about the measure of wealth. It's not just net worth on paper.
Right, because that can include liabilities like your house.
Exactly. The true measure, according to this framework, is your financial survivability.
Which you defined as, how long could you survive if you stopped working today?
Yes. Based purely on the cash flow coming in from your assets every month. How many months or years could you live? That's your real wealth measurement.
That's a sobering metric.
It is.
Yeah.
But it drives home the point. And it connects to his idea that money is only an idea.
If you want more money, simply change your thinking.
Right. Your mind is your greatest asset. And the choices you make every single day, how you earn, how you spend, what you learn, what you invest in those choices, reflect your underlying mindset. Are you thinking like an employee or like an owner?
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. If money really is just an idea and you get to choose daily how you use your time and your money, are your choices reinforcing that employee mindset focused on the paycheck, or are they building the mindset and the assets of an owner?
And maybe ask yourself, what's the very next financial skill you need to learn? What's one thing you could do starting today to begin turning a liability you currently have into something that actually puts money in your pocket?